Don't forget to like and subscribe to Jolie Knots Crochet, share with your friends, hit that little notification bell so you can get notified when new patterns release. All our videos are available in left and right-handed tutorials. Hi everyone, welcome back to Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal and today we are going to be making the Puffy Heart Slouch Beanie. Now this beanie is really just consisting of half double crochets and puff stitches to create hearts. It does come in 3 sizes: child size, and adult extra large. I will go ahead and leave the sizing and the amount of yardage that you are going to need for each size scrolling up on the screen. Now, of course, Valentine's Day is coming up and this looks best in some sort of pink shade, but you can use any color you like as long as you're okay with your hearts changing colors if you use some sort of self-changing color. The materials that you're going to need are a 5mm crochet hook and a 3-weight yarn. Now for this sample tutorial, I'm going to be using the Mandala Sparkle by Lions brand. This comes in a 3.5 ounce to 328 yards. 1 skein of this will be enough for the adult and the adult extra large, but if you're using a smaller skein of another kind of yarn, then you're probably going to have to use a little bit more than a skein depending on the size of your yarn skein, okay? Now this is 100% acrylic. You can use a really light 4-weight or a very thin 4-weight if you have that, or you don't have a 3-weight. I did use a thin 4-weight for this one. The difference is it's a lot less slouchy than the 3-weight because it's a little bit more dense and a lot less, I guess, stretchy, you would say. But it still worked out and it still looks nice. Now the way that we're going to be making this is we're going to start on the bottom band and then we're going to connect those and work our way up, cinching the top up. And I have another video that will show you how to add a removable pom-pom if you like that, and I'll leave that in the description box below. Now this is an updated tutorial. I did have this pattern on my channel about a year ago, and I did not have a written pattern, just the tutorial. So there will be a written pattern linked in the description box below if you prefer to follow along with a written pattern. All right, everyone, go ahead and grab your materials and we will get started. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your yarn and your hook and you're gonna create a slip knot. Now remember, we're starting on the bottom band. If you are making the child size, you are chaining 9. If you're making the adult size, you're chaining 11. And if you're making the extra large adult, you're chaining 13. I'm going to make a child size, so I'm just going to chain 9. And now what we're going to do is single crochet into the second chain from the hook and in every chain after that. So a child size should have 8 single crochets, an adult should have 10, and an adult extra large should have 12. Okay, now that is the end of round 1. We're going to now get started on round 2, and round 2 is your repeat row. So what you're going to do is chain 1 and turn your work. You're going to single crochet through both loops of your first stitch, and then you're going to single crochet through the back loop only of the remaining single crochets until you reach your last single crochet. But your last single crochet will also be through both loops. So your first and your last single crochet of the band will be through both loops, and all the others will be through the back loop only. So here we are at our last single crochet, going through both loops, and that's row 2. Chain 1, turn your work, and you're going to repeat row 2 for 60 rows if you're working a child size, 72 rows if you're working an adult size, and 84 rows if you're working an adult extra large. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish out my 60 rows because I'm making a child size, and I will meet you back to show you how to close it up and get started on the body of the pattern. Okay, so I have completed my 60 rows. And now what we're going to do is join our last row that we did to the chain of the first side. So we're going to bring those together like this. Chain 1. And now what we're going to do is slip stitch across. Our first slip stitch is going to go through both loops of your last single crochet that you created, and then the first chain on the other side. Your next ones, your middle ones that were where your single crochets went through back loop only, our slip stitch is also going to go through back loop only. So back loop only through the next chain on the other side. We're going to go through back loop only all the way down until we get to the first stitch. And when you get to your last stitch, you're going to go through your back loops, or I'm sorry, both loops of your last stitch, and then the last chain of the other side. Okay, so now the reason that we did that, go ahead and chain 1. You can flip your brim the right way out. And the way we did it that way is so that it can keep the ridges proper and it won't, you won't be able to see that transition too much. Okay, so now we're going to get started on the body of this pattern. When we work the body of this pattern, we're not going to be ending rows with a slip stitch to join. We're actually going to go into continuous rounds. So if you do need, you can use a stitch marker. And because you've chained 1, now what we're going to do is half double crochet into the side of each row all the way around. So this is my first row of half double crochets. I'm going to go into the side. 1, and do that all the way around. Now your amount of half double crochets should be the same amount of rows that you've had because we're putting it 1 into each side. So I should end up with 60 half double crochets. If you're working the adult size, you'll end up with 72 half double crochets. And if you're working the extra large adult, you'll have 84 half double crochets. So go ahead, work your half double crochets all the way around. And what you can do to help you, if you like, is go ahead and put a stitch marker in the first half double crochet that you created. I will meet you back to get started on round 2. Okay, so I've got my 60 half double crochets. I've made it back all the way around to round 1 where my stitch marker is. Now in order to transition, because we're not slip stitching and joining, we're doing continuous rounds. Into this stitch marker, you can go ahead and remove your stitch marker. You're going to place a single crochet. Now that's the only stitch that's going to be a single crochet because it's just transitioning us from round 1 to round 2. Now you can go ahead and put your stitch marker into the top of that single crochet. This is now where your round 2 is starting. What we're going to do from here is we're going to do 5 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now into our next stitch, we're going to do a puff stitch. So let me show you how we're going to work the puff stitch for this pattern. You're going to yarn over, go into the stitch and pull up a loop. We're doing that 5 times. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over and pull through all of your loops. And then we're going to chain 1 to secure, and we're going to make sure that that's pulled tight. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Okay, that's just to secure. Now here is our repeat. Your repeat is 11 half double crochets and a puff stitch. So we're going to go 1, 2, and 11. 11 half double crochets and a puff stitch. For yarn over, pull up a loop 5 times. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over, pull through all loops, chain 1 to secure, and pull that tightly. That's your repeat. So you're going to repeat 11 half double crochets and a puff stitch all the way around until you have 5 stitches left at the end. I will meet you back here and show you how we're going to end the row and transition to row 3. Just completed the last puff of my last repeat, and I have my 5 stitches left. Now what we're going to do is work 11 half double crochets. We're going to half double crochet over the stitch marker where we'll be ending right before your next puff stitch. So let's go ahead and do that. 11 half double crochets. 1. Now your 11th half double crochet should fall into your last half double crochet right before your puff. This is now going to be the clear end of your round 2 and beginning of round 3. So you can go ahead and move your stitch marker up. Getting started on round 3. Round 3 is going to begin with a puff. So what's going to happen for our round 3 is our puff is going to be worked in between your half double crochet and your puff. So we have one here, and round 3 is going to increase to 2 puffs. So one is going to work before the puff between the stitches, and the next one is going to be worked after the puff between the stitches. So yarn over and puff stitch in between your 2 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now your next puff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what we're going to do is work 10 half double crochets. So your 10 half double crochets, this puff is technically worked above this stitch, okay? Now if you look closely, here's where working in continuous rounds makes it a little bit confusing. It looks as though this is the top of your half double crochet, only it's not the top of this half double crochet, it's the top of this half double crochet. So the first stitch we're working into, since this puff is counted here, the first stitch is going to be here. 10 half double crochets. 1, 10. And that's your repeat. 2 puffs, 10 half double crochets. So you'll repeat that all the way around until you reach the beginning of your round 3. 2 puffs, 10 half double crochets. I'll meet you right back at your stitch marker. Okay, so I have gotten to the end of round 3. My last half double crochet is the same stitch where I had my last half double crochet in the previous row, and that's where I had put my stitch marker. So from here, we will go ahead and move our stitch marker up. That is the end of round 3. And then now we will begin round 4. Round 4 is going to begin with 3 puff stitches. So we went from 1 to 2, and now we're going to do 3. So starting 3 puff stitches, our first one will again be in between our half double crochet and our puff. The next one will be between our 2 puffs, and the third one will be between our last puff and the first half double crochet. Now once you have finished out your 3 puffs, now in between we will have 9 half double crochets. So your repeat is 3 puffs, 9 half double crochets, 3 puffs, 9 half double crochets, all the way until you get to your stitch marker, and your last stitch again should be worked into that stitch marker. I will meet you back when you get to this spot. Okay, I've just completed out round 5 with our 4 puffs. Now getting started on round 6, it's going to be 5 puffs. 5 puffs, 7 half double crochets. 5 puffs, 7 half double crochets. Go ahead and work that out, move your stitch marker up, and I will meet you back at the top for round 7. Okay, I have just completed round 6. Round 6, you have 5 puffs with 7 half double crochets in the middle. Now round 7, we're going to start rounding our heart back out. So the first stitch that we're going to have, let me move my stitch marker up. So our first stitch in this round is going to be a half double crochet, which should be on the puff. So not in between the stitches, but into the top 2 loops of the puff. Remember, your chain 1 does not count as a stitch here. So here's the first half double crochet. That's what we're beginning with. Now we're doing 4 puffs across. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We won't have a puff extending on the outside of either side. So 4 puffs across. Now that we've got our 4 puffs across, we're going to do 8 half double crochets over. Now remember, this chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So your first stitch that you're working into is this half double crochet here. That's your first one. 8. Now that is your repeat. 4 puffs, 8 half double crochets. 4 puffs, 8 half double crochets. You are going to go ahead and work that all the way around until you reach your first puff. Okay? Okay, here I am. I have just completed out round 7. Now, when you end your round 7, you are going to end 1 stitch ahead of where your stitch marker is. Because we started this row with a half double crochet, and then we had 8 in between, our 8 here is going to end 1 stitch ahead. So you didn't miscount if you've been following along with the stitch markers. That's the way it's supposed to be. So go ahead and remove your stitch marker. You can replace it now at the end of your next row. And the first thing we're going to do for round 8 is front post half double crochet around our first puff. Front post half double crochet around the first puff. Now we're going to puff in between the next 2 puffs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now in between the next 2 puffs, we're going to place 3 half double crochets in between there. 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to puff in between the next 2 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we will front post half double crochet around the last puff. After your front post half double crochet, we are going to skip this first half double crochet right here, and we are going to work 7 half double crochets. So skip your first one into your next one. Now we're going to work 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So catching you up. Front post half double crochet around your first puff. Puff in between the 2. 3 half double crochets between the next. Puff after that in between the last 2. Front post half double crochet around your puff. Skipping your first half double crochet, we're going to start 7 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we're going to repeat that. After our 7, that's where we're going to begin the first front post half double crochet. So we're going to repeat this all the way around until we get back to our stitch marker. Okay, so I have just completed round 8. Round 8 should have brought you all the way up to the stitch right before your first stitch, which was your front post half double crochet. Now we're going to go ahead and move our stitch marker up. And now we are going to half double crochet 2 together. The first part of your half double crochet 2 together will be your front post half double crochet, and the second part will be your puff stitch. So yarn over, go into your stitch, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all. We're Going to work 4 half double crochets. Now remember, your chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and your first half double crochet falls after a chain, so it's a little tough to get into that stitch, but you can get into there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to half double crochet 2 together again. Your first part will be your front post half double crochet. Your second part will be the half double crochet after that. And now we're going to work 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And here's what your work should look like so far. In the next stitch, we're going to place a puff stitch. So this round is, we've completed our hearts, and now round 9 is getting started on our next row of hearts. And our next row of hearts is staggered. So our next row is going to start in between the 2 hearts. So we're going to puff into the next stitch. And now we're going to work 2 half double crochets. 1, 2. And that's the end of our repeat. So I'm going to go through the repeat again with you one more time, a little bit faster. Our repeat begins with a half double crochet 2 together. The first part is the front post, and the second part is the puff. 1, 2. Now we have 4 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're half double crochet 2 together. First part is the front post. Second part is the half double crochet afterwards. And now we're going to work 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and a puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to finish out our repeat with 2 half double crochets. And then you begin your repeat again. So go ahead and repeat all the way back around until you reach your stitch marker. Okay, so now that we have finished our last repeat, we've gotten to our stitch marker. And now we're going to work 9 half double crochets across until we reach our first puff stitch. One, and 9. And now you can move your stitch marker to the last stitch worked, and that will now be the end of our round 9. So now we've completed round 9. Now for the child size, you are going to repeat rounds 3 through 8. So round 3, is where you have your 2 puffs. Round 8 is completing your heart. Round 9 is transitioning to create a new heart. So if you're working a child size, you're working round 3 through 8 again. And I'm going to work round 3 with you guys one more time just to show you again. If you are working the adult size, both adult sizes are the same in this aspect. You are going to repeat rounds 3 through 9 and then round 3 through 8. So a child size is going to have 2 rows of hearts, and the adult size is going to have 3 rows of hearts. So let's get started on round 3. Round 3, we're starting with 2 puff stitches. Our first puff stitch falls before, our second puff stitch falls after. Now, as round 3 is, we work 10 half double crochets. And 10. And now you work your 2 puffs. That's your repeat. Your 2 puffs, your 10 half double crochets. And now we begin our repeat all over. 2 puffs, 10 half double crochets, and then you'll continue working from rounds 3 through 9 as an adult, then rounds 3 through 8. If you're working the child size, you're only working rounds 3 through 8. Okay, so I am going to finish out the rest of my round 3. I will meet you back at the end of round 8, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to close it off. As the either adult sizes, you're doing 3 through 9, and then you're doing 3 through 8, and then you're going to meet me back after your last round 8, and we will close it out. Okay, so I have just completed my last stitch of round 8. Now I have my 1 heart and my 2 hearts. If you're doing any of the adult sizes, you're going to have 3 hearts, but you're still going to end on your round 8. Now what we're going to do is do 4 rows of half double crochet with no puff stitches, no increasing, no decreasing, 4 rows of half double crochet, and then I will meet you back here and show you an easy way to cinch this up. Okay, so I have finished out my 4 rows of half double crochet. Because we're cinching up the top, it's not necessary to have a transition because this is just all going to be cinched together. So you're going to leave about a 12-inch tail approximately. Take a yarning needle and thread that up. And now all we're going to do is go in and out through every stitch all the way around. Super easy, super simple, just going in and out, cinching it up a little bit as we go, making sure it's nice and tight. Okay, now I have gone through all of my stitches and I'm just going to pull that nice and tight. And from here, in order to keep it closed, I'm just going to go like across. So from one side to the next. And again, one side on the other side, to the next. Make sure you're not picking up extra stitches on the inside or it's going to look a little bit funny. You're going to sew part of it closed together. And that's all you're going to do a few times all the way around and making sure that it's really secured. And if you would like to learn how to put a removable pom-pom on your beanie, I will go ahead and leave a link in the description box below for that. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal. Don't forget to find me on Facebook and Instagram under Jolie Knots Crochet. Don't forget to follow me. Don't forget to join the Jolie Knots Crochet community group on Facebook and show us what you've created. Have a wonderful day and we'll see you next time.